everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I want to begin by thanking the men and women who are standing here with me at City Hall this morning, beginning with Council President Davis Salvatore, who you'll be hearing from in just a second, along with Chief of Police, Chief Clements. Thank you for everything you continue to do. Superintendent Maher, thanks to you. We're also going to be hearing from Senator Harold Metz, so thank you very much, Senator. And we have Councilman Michael Correa, Councilwoman Nerva Lafortune. We have Commissioner of Public Safety, Stephen Parry. We have Representative Anastasia Williams. We have Representative Scott Slater. We have Representative Grace Diaz. We have Councilman Nick Narducci, and we also have Councilman Wilbur Jennings. So we're gathered here today as local elected officials. We're joining and speaking with one voice, asking both sides in this dispute, both First Student and the Teamsters, to come together to find a resolution so that our kids can get to and from school safely and conveniently, as they always have. I want to begin by sharing that all of us understand that the negotiations are between these two parties. And while there may be legitimate issues on both sides, we speak on behalf of the children and the families here in the city of Providence. We've heard from numerous families and from numerous parents of the extreme difficulty and inconvenience that it has been to get their kids to and from school. Our parents, particularly single parents, have had to make other arrangements and have had to make massive disruptions and sustain massive inconveniences in their daily schedule to make sure that kids are in school and then back home safely. And so as elected officials, we feel for every single one of them. We want to make sure that this issue is resolved as promptly as possible. So we're calling on both parties, using both our political but our moral authority, and asking them to think about the kids, think about the families, think about every single resident in the city of Providence that's affected by this, to make sure that a resolution is reached as quickly as possible. As local leaders, we've all heard directly from our constituents about how this dispute has impacted them so much since the strike took hold and began last week. On their behalf, we're standing shoulder to shoulder to send a message. As mayor, I appreciate the way that our city has come together to confront this challenging time for the 9,000 public school students that have been affected. We've had bus monitors, we've had PTU teachers, we've had public safety officials, we've had administrators in central office, we've had every single person possible chip in to make sure arrival and dismissal goes off as smoothly as possible. We've also had parents giving rides to their neighbors and private citizens chipping in. We as a community have come together at every step to ensure the safety and well-being of our students, but ultimately, we need a sustainable solution for this. The school department and the mayor's office has been working for over a month to find any alternative ways of resolving this dispute, either in the city or throughout the region. Unfortunately, the scale of transporting 9,000 students every day, early in the morning and then in the afternoon, is one that no other company, no other institution has the capacity to take on, to resolve. We have also considered bringing in another vendor. However, that vendor just doesn't exist. We need about 150 buses to transport our kids every single day. And not only do we need 150 buses, but we also need 150 drivers. 150 drivers that need CDL licenses, that need training with school buses, that would need training for equipment with students with disabilities, and that also have to pass extensive background checks. Those 150 bus drivers simply don't exist to help take on this challenge. That's why we are here jointly to call on First Student and the Teamsters Union to come to an agreement as soon as possible. Students with individualized education programs or students with special disabilities who have transportation needs as part of their IEPs will continue to receive excused absences. We're reviewing the law to determine the excused and unexcused absences for students with IEPs without transportation as part of their IEPs. All of our families and students deserve reliable and safe transportation. They deserve that peace of mind. Once again, I would like to thank all of my colleagues for joining me this morning. It is my hope that our message is clear and that it is taken into consideration by both of the parties involved. And make no mistake about it, we will continue to push for a prompt resolution for this matter, using all of the resources and all of the leverage at our disposal at every level of government to make sure that occurs. So I'm going to pass it on to President Salvatore. You'll hear from him first, and then once all of the speakers are done speaking, we'll take any questions. So I'll ask President Salvatore, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to recognize and thank my colleagues in government, our public safety officials, and our officials in the school department for standing shoulder to shoulder with us today to take on and address this very important issue. This morning, 9,000 Providence students, once again, did not have reliable, responsible, and safe bus transportation to receive an education. Parents had to yet again make other arrangements. Those arrangements are also sacrifice to parents across our city. For most of us, time is an obstacle that we have to navigate. On our best days, we come out unscathed, and on our worst days, time is our enemy. Think about that single mom. Time is everything. It's the difference between a sprint and a marathon. I ask you to think about her, who is working 2 jobs. The first job, where she has to be in at 7 a.m. And for every hour she's late, that's an hour deducted from her paycheck. That single mom relies on the bus to get her kids to school, and without this service, creates an even bigger obstacle to her work day. When she's late for work, she will receive less wages in her paycheck. Wages that she would use to pay her rent and pay for groceries. This is completely unacceptable. As the mayor indicated, as elected officials, we have a responsibility to provide safe, reliable, predictable bus transportation for those 9,000 students. The Teamsters, Local 251, and First Student also have a responsibility to provide that same quality of life and transportation for the betterment of our education system, for that single mom, and so that our students are receiving the education that we want them to receive every single day in Providence. I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with my colleagues in government, but now we need the stakeholders to come to the table and create a resolution that works for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, President Salvatore. Now we'll hear from Senator Harold Pence.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Elorza and Council President Salvatore, and certainly the members of the City Council and certainly the General Assembly members. I have Representative Diaz and Representative Williams with us here today from the Providence delegation, and certainly the school department. And we just want to say that as a Providence delegation that works very hard for funding for our city, we're here in solidarity with you, but most importantly, we are here on behalf of the safety and the future of our students. So we urge both parties to get together as prayerfully. We don't want our students to be used as pawns during the deliberations. You heard the Council President mention about the lost income. We're concerned about test scores. When the economy tanked several years ago, the economist was very clear. As a retired educator in the Providence School Department, for 31 years as an administrator, teacher, and coach, we know the importance of education to the economy if the Rhode Island economy is going to prosper. We know about the low test scores. We can't afford that for any population. And certainly public safety. Some of these kids now have to walk through neighborhoods of opposing gangs. And several of us have already been to enough funerals and wakes of some young people that have been shot and murdered already. So we certainly don't want that. And again, education is key to the economic success of our entire state, not just the city of Providence. So we can't afford the negative ramifications of the current situation. And again, my colleagues and I at the State House and the General Assembly members, the Providence delegation, we urge both sides to settle their differences for the benefit of our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. We'll now hear from Superintendent of Schools, Chris Maher.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everybody being here to support our students and families today. And I want to reiterate what I said last night at the City Council. I want to thank all the sacrifices. I want to thank all the families for the sacrifices that they are making. We know it's not sustainable. I respect the rights of both parties in this situation, both First Student and the Teamsters, to come to a fair deal. However, this strike action is harmful to our students, and it is an unfair burden on our families. As Senator Metz said, our children are not pawns to be moved around in a board game to win. I want to speak directly to First Student, to the Teamsters, and to the bus drivers, because I know you, and I know that you care for our kids. I know that when you're on a bus with our students, that their safety is in your hands and you take it seriously. Please, all sides, come together and let's get a resolution to this issue so that we can go back to doing the business of running our schools. Thank you very much.
Now let's Commissioner please do please.
Thank you, Mayor, City Councilors, Providence State Representatives. From day one of this labor dispute, the Providence Police Department, Providence Public Safety, has worked very closely with Superintendent Maher, the Providence School District, during this labor strike. Our priority and our focus has been the safety and security of our students and of our community. As such, we have provided presence at every single one of the schools in question. 23 elementary schools, 7 middle schools, 30 schools in total. Most with a permanent presence for the morning commute and afternoon commute, and some with a sole presence where officers are handling calls and then responding back to their respective schools. We'll continue to persist with this coverage. However, for the betterment of the city, we as well hope for a quick resolve for the benefit of all involved in this dispute. Thank you.
Mayor, have you asked?
We'll take any questions now.
Have you asked the union to stop the strike, continue negotiating with them to stop the strike at any point?
I have. So I spent all day with them. I believe it was last Wednesday, from the early morning to the late evening, and we talked about a lot of different scenarios. Unfortunately, what we have right now is both sides, they're digging their heels in. And the Teamsters have made it clear that they're holding out for a pension, and the company has made it clear that they're not going to offer a pension. And so my role has been making sure that they continue to be at the table, and hopefully both of them soften in their position to find some resolution some way forward. Unfortunately, they weren't able to reach some resolution on Wednesday, and as part of those conversations, I made an offer that would help bring them together, and certainly that offer was made with the goal that would prevent a strike. However, if there already is a strike, that additional city help would eventually come off the table. And so, it's really incumbent on all parties to reach a resolution soon. So it's additional resources. Additional resources in our contract with First Student that then in their negotiations between each other might be helpful in getting them to yes. So that's something that we are still willing to consider here on the city, but the original idea is only if a strike is averted. The reason for that additional support, frankly, diminishes every single day.
Would that be additional money to go into the contract?
Yeah, so additional money for the contract, because the contract, the language in the contract currently has a clause that absolves the company of responsibility if there is a strike. So effectively, the city would be purchasing insurance so that someone is responsible if there's a strike. So that's the idea behind it.
Now, currently on the table or off the table, or?
It hasn't been taken off the table. The idea was to avert a strike, but certainly the longer this goes, the less sense it makes to keep it on the table.
What do you say to the imprecation today by the ACLU that this brings the city out of compliance with the necessity to provide bus services for students with special needs?
Yeah. So a couple of points on that. The first one is that that's something that we've been working very, very closely on. And in fact, when we first started hearing that there might be a strike, the school department looked at all of the options available to us. And we were told from our law department that federal regulations do not allow us to discriminate between some folks with special disabilities and some kids who have different kinds of special disabilities. So the city's in a position where we have to provide transportation for all special needs students with transportation IEPs or none at all. That means transport 1,000 students, finding buses and drivers with all the certification, training, and background checks that go along with it, or expose ourselves to liability. And so that's the first point, that we've sought out other companies and potentially drivers that can provide that service. There is no company, there is no excess capacity, both on the buses and driver side, for us to fill that anywhere in the city, the state, or the region. With that said, I've been in constant contact with all of the parties, including the mediator, and we are meeting later today at 2:30 with the Teamsters executive committee and their negotiating committee here in Providence, with the only topic on the agenda being transporting our special needs students. Now, hopefully, there'll be some progress that we can make there. But I just want to remind everyone out there, particularly our parents, that even if there is some progress that we make with our Teamsters drivers later on today, there's still a lot more that has to be done, specifically securing buses before we can ensure that we can transport all of our special needs students.
Those amount to 1,000 students who fall into that special needs.
Correct.
Okay, the union has said they will not get drivers to transport special students. Can you direct First Student to use drivers in the Providence or other districts that they have and other buses from around the state to transport special ed students?
Yeah, so that's part of the conversation right now. So there are a number of different issues. There are, if the Teamsters do not ticket that, is it a question of picketing First Student buses from the Providence yard? What does it say about buses that are either First Student or otherwise that come from other yards? That's one question. The other question is also, if we are able to secure enough buses, which is itself a big question mark, what about the drivers? Would they be drivers from other yards? Do they exist? Is the capacity just hanging out there somewhere? Or could they be First Student bus drivers? So that's part of the conversation we need to have with First Student Executive Committee today. And then if there's progress, then we have to look on the bus side, both speaking with First Student or any of the bus drivers.
Put pressure on that.
Absolutely. So I call that pressure on. Absolutely. I call the Navy, so we're putting that pressure on. That's coming from us.
What have you got in the way of pressure?
So the union also says that at the 2:30 meeting, they're going to offer you that you can have their drivers, they'll drive the kids, and you can find a bus that doesn't say first student on it. Is that even remotely feasible to find other buses that aren't owned by first student? I don't know how many you would need for the 1,000 students.
Yeah, so therein lies the challenge. And so in the conversations I've had with Nick Williams, he has suggested that we can use Teamsters drivers. That needs to be committed to writing, committed to paper. It's there are a number of really tricky legal and logistical challenges that come along with that. But then we have to go out and find the buses. And in order to transport just shy of 1,000 students with special needs, we would need anywhere from about 40 to 55 buses. And the reason for that is, currently, students with transportation IEPs, they ride on about 130 of our 150 buses. So what we would need to do, we would need to consolidate those students into buses and also draw up new routes for them to take. We're confident we can overcome that logistic challenge if we find the buses. And so we may have to cobble together buses from a number of different sources. Now we've already done this, we've reached out, and we know that, so for example, universities don't have buses that are special needs accessible. There are some buses at the hospitals and other institutions that do have them, but are there 50 buses or whatever amount we exactly need? That's something that we will have to find out. But again, this is all contingent on whether or not the drivers exist, and that's the progress that we're going to make every 2 years.
You mentioned off the top, you haven't been able to find a vendor that has 150 buses. That's a large amount. This is a large district. But are there vendors out there with smaller amounts that you can either combine or get creative with them?
So again, then potentially, we're not going to find 150 buses overnight, but whatever number of buses we do find, are there sufficient drivers? And so what we're doing is we're prioritizing our students with transportation needs in their IEPs. And for that, we estimate we'll need somewhere around 50 buses. So then we're looking for 50 bus drivers. But hopefully, after today's 2:30 meeting, we'll have resolution on the bus driver side, which then puts us in a position to see if we can cobble together the 50 or so buses that are required.
Mayor, do you intend to be personally involved in those talks?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to be here?
And they'll be at the school department.
Are you going to be altering the excused absence policy at all? At this point, we're at day 4 now, or is that staying?
So the mayor indicated earlier that we're, for students with disabilities as part of their individualized education plan, absences will continue to be excused. But we need our children in school, so we don't want to send messages like that.
So the rest of the students, if they were off today, it's their 4th day, it's an unexcused.
I will say that there is a very small number of students, and I don't have the exact numbers, so I'll get back to you later. A relatively small number of students have missed all 3 days.
Or do you know how many students have IEPs that have been covered?
No, we're in the process of disaggregating attendance data. We know at the high level we were at 80%, almost 87.5% yesterday. For the whole district, we were at 79-point-something% on Friday, and Thursday we were at 84. But people look at 88, and I think that's a testament to our parents, because quite frankly, even that is low for us on Monday in September. But we're looking to try to get more kids to school every day, which is part of our goal and what we need to do as a district. To talk to Senator Metz's point, we have systemic issues that we're trying to address and improve in this district, and this strike is just getting in the way of any improvement that we can achieve in the district.
Can you provide upfront payments to parents after the line?
We received a letter yesterday from ACLU, and we're doing it right now. We've already taken a number of the steps that are suggested in the letter, but we'll be providing a thorough response once we
Can you respond directly to the letter, because they say that they believe that you're not meeting your responsibilities under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act? Do you believe you're meeting your responsibilities?
We'll be responding to the letter tomorrow.
Thank you.